Welcome to the Drama Coach podcast. I'm Lisa Southam, an actor, drama coach, parent of young performers, and someone who is always trying to give you honest, practical guidance about the acting industry. And today, I want to talk about supporting artist agencies. You might hear this called SA work, background work, or even working as an extra. Extra used to be the common term, and some people do still use it, but supporting artist is generally the more professional phrase now. It recognises that you're not just there as decoration, you're supporting the scene and helping create the world of the production. And the question I really want to look at is, should actors join supporting artist agencies? Because for some people, especially early on, supporting artist work can be a brilliant way to get into professional sets, understand how filming works, and build confidence around the industry. But there are a few important things to understand first. It's not the same as acting training. It's not usually a direct route to speaking roles. And if you already have an acting agent, it's something you may need to discuss with them first. Some agents are completely happy for actors to do supporting artist work, especially if it gives them useful set experience and does not clash with acting castings. Others may prefer you not to, or may want to approve it first. A good guide is whether your agent is sole or non-sole. If they're non-sole, then you probably can, but I think it's polite to chat to them first before you sign up to a supporting artist agency. So this episode is about what supporting artist agencies are, how they work, what the benefits can be, and what you need to think about before signing up. As always, this is about realistic expectations, not hype, not do this and you'll be discovered, just honest, useful information. So what is a supporting artist? A supporting artist is someone who appears in the background or sometimes close to the action to help the scene feel real. They used to have that name extras that I talked about in the intro. So in a hospital drama, supporting artists might be patients, nurses, visitors, or people walking through the corridor. In a school scene, they might be pupils, parents, teachers, or passers-by. In a restaurant, they might be diners, waiting staff, or people walking past outside. And this, of course, is specific to the era that it's set in as well. You know, they will be dressed and made up, hair and makeup, etc., to fit the genre and the era precisely. And as I said, tell the story, fill that world of the story. So the job is to help build the entire world of the scene. You're not usually there to perform a big character arc or pull focus or show everyone how brilliant your acting is. Sorry about that. But you are there to serve the production. And I think that distinction matters. Good supporting artists are reliable, calm, professional, good at listening, good at repeating actions, and able to take direction without making it about them. And actually, those are brilliant skills for any performer to develop. My next point is supporting artist work acting? And this is where we need to be honest, isn't it? Supporting artist work is connected to the acting industry, but is not always the same as being cast in an acting role. You might need to react naturally, move with purpose, hit marks, stay in continually and make the world of the scene feel believable. But most of the time, you're being booked because you fit the brief. Well, that works for acting too, doesn't it? That might be your age, look, height, location, availability, costume size, skills, car, hair colour, or something very specific that the production needs. And that does not make it lesser, it's just different. And I think if you understand that from the start, it can be a really positive experience. Should actors join supporting artist agencies? Now, this is where there are different opinions, and I have heard different opinions from people in the industry. So, as always in this podcast, I'll give you as much information as I can, and then it's up to you, isn't it, to make your own decision as to what works for you. So some people feel quite strongly that actors should avoid supporting artist work if they want to be taken seriously for acting roles. This is definitely something I heard when I said I wanted to move from teaching acting, it's sort of the wrong way round, isn't it, into acting myself. And there were a handful of people who said, you must pick your path. you can't do supporting artist work and actor work. But I would say I know quite a few actors that either started with supporting artist work or did it alongside their acting work, because we don't want to be sat around waiting, do we? And if you can be earning money and on set, I think that's a good thing. You're just not necessarily putting, or almost definitely not, putting your supporting artist work on your Spotlight profile, for example. You don't put that you're working in a bar, maybe, on your Spotlight profile, unless you're acting whilst you're doing that. That can be a different thing entirely. But you'll choose what you advertise. And I don't think, as long as it's okay with your agent, personally, I don't think there is any harm with being on the books of a supporting artist agency or two, if it's getting you on set, if it's getting you paid in your downtime, and it's getting you experience. The difficulties come where obviously jobs clash, or there might be a featured role. My agent warned me about that as well. Clashes and difficulties. But if you've got a good agent and you're communicating well with each other, you should be able to get through those difficulties together. So what I'm trying to say is I understand why this conversation exists. I can see how people might think you can only take one path or the other, because there was this sort of, I think, old-fashioned maybe, or older view that I heard from some people that think you go and become a supporting artist and then suddenly you're discovered. Well, that is extremely rare, in my opinion. So supporting artist work and acting roles are usually cast through these different routes. If your goal is principal acting work, then you need to be clear about where you're putting your energy. But as I said, personally, especially in the early days, I think supporting artist work can be an excellent way to get onto that set and understand how the industry works from the inside. You can learn so much by simply being there. You can see and feel the pace of the filming. You can see and feel how long things take. You can see how many crew members are involved. You can start to understand call times, holding areas, costume continuity, resets, the waiting around, and set etiquette, among so many other things. You can also compare and contrast what things are like on different sets. So that experience can be genuinely valuable. But I would not frame it, certainly not, as a magic route into acting. It's not a replacement for training. It's not the same as auditioning for a role. And it's not something that I would build my whole acting identity around if my aim was to be a principal in acting work. Like I just said, you perhaps wouldn't I would advise, it's my opinion, not to put your supporting artist work on your Spotlight. But as part of your early experience, I think it can be super useful. The pay is usually fairly low, I'm sorry to say, often around about £100 a day, depending on the production. There's usually little or no money for travel. And this all depends on the production, the agency, the hours, the location, and the terms. If it's down the road from you, it might be worth going. I think it's quite a good idea if you're signing up with a supporting artist agency to sign up for one that predominantly works in or near your area, or to areas that you're willing to travel to. So I definitely wouldn't frame this as a big moneymaker, far from it. But, if you are free that day and you're on set and you are earning some money, I think that sounds like winning to me. I think the real value there is the on-set experience. Maybe the connections you make, although, as I think you've heard before from my guests talking about their experience, very often supporting artists aren't milling around with the actors. They'll have their separate space, but you're still, I would say, making those connections because you're being a part of that industry and of that production. So I don't think that's to be sniffed at. So will your agent mind? If you have an acting agent, are they going to have a problem with you also being on the books of a supporting artist agency? If you already have an agent, this is really important. Don't just assume that it's fine. Check your agreement, ask the questions, and be honest. Tell them you're thinking about it and why. You can ask their honest opinion. Maybe they've even got some they could recommend to you. Maybe there are other actors on their books who already do this. And some agents are absolutely happy for actors to do supporting artist work, especially if it helps them understand the set and gain the experience. But others might not want their actors doing SA work. They might want to know about it before you accept anything as well. But again, if you've had that initial conversation with them and they've laid it out in that conversation, yes, you can perhaps join this one, but I want to know when you're accepting things, then fine, great. Have that two-way open conversation. And that doesn't mean that they're trying to be difficult. They might be thinking about how you're positioned, what kind of work you're being put forwards for, or whether there could be conflicts with castings, availability, or production rules. So the sensible answer here, and I think you're sensing this already, is communicate. If you have an agent, ask them where they stand. If you don't have an agent yet, then you can make your own decision right now, but go with realistic expectations. Perhaps you've got your eyes on some specific agencies. You might want to find out what their guidance is on this. But again, I wouldn't want to be waiting for an agent forever. This is a way that you can start building your experience. And you don't have to be with that casting agency, the supporting artist one, forever, do you? You can do that for a period of time. Perhaps you then leave them when you get your own agent. Again, you'll have that conversation and decide from there. Okay, before we go any further, I want to quickly thank this season's sponsor, Scene Tribe. And actually, it feels really relevant to this episode because we're talking about early industry experience. We're talking about being on set, understanding how the creative industries work, and the people you may meet along the way. Scene Tribe is a new network for the creative industries. It's built around the work you've done and the people you've done it with. It helps actors, performers, crew, and creatives build a profile around real credits, collaborations, and career journeys. So whether you're building experience, connecting with other creatives, or starting to put your work somewhere professional, Scene Tribe is well worth a look. And you can find out more at scenetribe.com. Okay, let's get back to the supporting artist work. How do supporting artist agencies work? I'm registered with a supporting artist agency myself, and a couple that I've heard good things about, especially in my area, and been recommended by other people, include Phoenix and Alicia Hartigan. So the work on these is often very practical and profile based. So you create a profile with your details, photos, measurements, location, availability, skills, costume sizes, hair colour, visible tattoos, vehicle information, DBS information if relevant. For example, my supporting artist casting agent knows that I am a registered chaperone and occasionally will ask me if I'm available for chaperone jobs too. So you get the idea. There's a lot there that you put into your profile, but in my experience, it's pretty easy to do. And as actors or training actors, we've got most of that ready to go. We know our measurements, we've got our headshots, etc. So it's not hard to set up a profile. And this profile is used when productions are looking for certain people. So they might need office workers or people that look that they could belong in the 1960s. They might be looking for families, drivers, children of a certain age, or people who live near a filming location. It's not always about the best actor, and I would say they're almost definitely, even if you have uploaded a monologue, they're almost definitely not looking at your acting skills. It's about matching that brief and you being available. And I think that's the mind shift. We talk a lot, don't we, about casting and all that matching. All that matching happens in the standard acting casting, and it happens in supporting artist casting. It's just happening in a slightly different way. They're looking often for many people or a variety of different people. They're looking for you to be there, to look realistic, not to act and not to perform. And I think that's the mindset shift there. So setting up your profile. The key is to be accurate. Don't try and be glamorous or over-polished. We want accurate. Very often with some supporting artist agencies, they will say, can you upload a photo of you right now? I had this. My headshots were recent, but they said right now, we want to see the length of your hair now. And I didn't go and put on extra makeup or anything like that. I just, against my plain background, took my hair as it was now. And I think that led to a whole conversation of, would you chop it off? And on this occasion, I said no, because it was just a supporting artist role. I'd just had my headshots redone. I'd spent time growing my hair. And I thought, no, do you know what? On this occasion, it's not. And that was my choice, and that was okay. If it had been for a larger role, I would have said yes. But for the time and the money and the hassle of redoing my headshots, etc., and putting them everywhere else, I didn't feel I wanted to, and I was quite enjoying my long hair, and I didn't feel like I wanted to do that at that point, and that's fine, and they are okay with that as long as you're honest. That's why they're asking you, and they will find someone else, no problem, on their books that is happy to chop their hair or already has shorter hair. So keep it really accurate to how you look right now. So if your hair changes, update the photo. If your measurements have changed, update them. I don't know, if you've got braces, glasses, etc., visible tattoo, be honest, put all of this in. Piercings, and can you remove them? All of that's in there. All casting teams are trying to do is match the real people to very specific requirements. And for children and teens, parents need to be careful because everything needs to be current and truthful. I believe I've listed that I have children on my supporting artist profile. I've even listed my dad. I think there was something that said, the people you could bring on set and their age and their name. I was like, oh yeah, he's retired now. He would love to come on set with me one day. So I've listed him there. I think that could be quite fun. I would love to manifest that happening. Have a little day out on set together. I don't know off the top of my head the rules for children. As I said, this series 2 is more for your 18 plus. So you can, as an adult, sign up and have a profile as a supporting artist. I do not know where they stand with children, but as I said, I've listed mine as a parent that I could take them to set if they were looking for children, but they don't have their own profile on there. So this is not an area, setting up your profile, where you want to be vague or hopeful. This is where you just need to be as clear and as honest as possible. So let's talk about how the call-outs work then. And they work slightly differently depending on your agency. So I can talk about my experience and a little bit about how I believe them to work in general. So they might come through email or an app or a portal or form. Mine comes as a text message. It's called a shout out. And then you click on the link and read the details from there. So it's very quick. They work quickly. They would like a quick response. Obviously, you can think about things. You need to go and check your diary. Are you available? It would be more inconvenient for you to say yes and then find out you weren't available. So again, being honest, being accurate, and being fast where you can within reason. So it depends on the agency how they give that call out. It will usually include the filming date, the location, the type of people they're needing, the costume or appearances requirements, and the pay, of course, and any special conditions. One shout out I had once, I won't go into details, I don't want to break any confidentialities, but I was reading it and it was winter and it involved a lot of water. I thought, oh no, this doesn't look and sound very pleasant, but would I do it? I think I would, but the location or the date or something didn't work out on that time. But think about what you are comfortable with. Make sure you read that call out carefully, because again, you don't want to be agreeing to things that you don't want to do. So you might be asked, are you available on this date or these dates or all of the above, or some of them? Can you get yourself to this location? Do you have a specific outfit? That hasn't happened to me yet for supporting artist work, but it has for student films and things. Are you comfortable with night filming or being sat in water or whatever it might be? Have you worked on this production before? Do you have a car? Are you happy with having a fitting or a haircut? And then for children, there may also be questions around licensing, school permission, parent availability, and or chaperones. Again, early days, I tend to find that the parents are the chaperones for the children, but that can't always work. And then sometimes you need professional chaperones. And the big thing is this: only put yourself forward if you genuinely fit the brief and are genuinely available. It's a total waste of everybody's time if not. Do not just apply for everything. Do not just say yes and try to work it out later. Being reliable is very important in this industry. So what happens then if you're booked? If you are booked, you will usually receive more detailed information closer to the filming date. More often than not, I would say you're released. They've found someone else or different or enough people, and you might be released. Sometimes you're not released for a while, and that can be tricky if you're sort of keeping that date free that you've said you're free for. So if you're booked, this extra information could include things like your call time, your location, wardrobe instructions, parking information, what to bring, what not to bring, and any confidentiality rules. Sometimes details come quite late, and this is totally normal in this part of the industry. But it does mean that you need to be flexible and you need to be organised. So on the day, you may spend a lot of time waiting. Once you've got there and you figured out all your parking and your everything else, you might get moved around. You might be asked to repeat some of the same actions again and again and again, so you need to be all right with that. You may be seen clearly or barely visible, and that doesn't necessarily get decided on the day. That might come down to how it's all cut together later on. You may film all day and then find that entire scene is cut. That can happen. And that's just the reality of screen work. You've still been paid and you've still had that experience. If you do get to see yourself on there, bonus, great. And if it's good enough to be used in a show reel, fantastic. But I would say generally your supporting artist work isn't going to be, because you might be seen, but you're not going to be acting. Very, very rarely will you be speaking. So it's probably not going to be show reel stuff if you're after that. Like I've said before, you've got your monologue, you've got your student film, your independent films, etc. until you get your higher level of work. So that's the reality of screen work. And it's why it can be a useful experience, because it shows you what the job's actually like and not what people might imagine it to be. And you can really suss out if it's going to be suitable for you for the long term. So let's talk about set etiquette then. If you are doing supporting artist work, your behaviour matters. Of course it does, as an actor, as any actor. So be on time, listen carefully, do not take photos unless you're specifically told you can. Do not post about the job unless production has given you permission. Do not approach the main cast for selfies or chats. That is so unprofessional. And don't share confidential information. And don't complain loudly. Obviously, your needs and boundaries need to be met, but you don't want to be there moaning about it all day. Definitely don't wander off, and don't try to steal the focus from the scene. That, of course, is a big no-no. Being professional isn't about being sort of stiff or scared. It's about understanding that everyone is there to do a job and to just be part of that and go with the flow, I would say, and hopefully enjoy your day on set. And for young performers, I think this can be a brilliant lesson if they are hanging around on set. As I said, I don't have either of my children on supporting artist agencies. They've got their agent. Maybe I'll chop in with a cutaway and do a little extra research after this and let you know where we stand with children on supporting artist books. As I said, mine are there as an extension of me with the agency that I'm with, but I don't know whether you can sign children up for supporting artist work themselves. I'll look into that and drop something in here. So here's my little cutaway after doing more research. I love that this podcast encourages me to research more than I thought I needed to. So yes, supporting artist agencies do accept children. In actual fact, there are some who specialise in this. Many adult supporting artist agencies, and again, this is UK based. I don't know the rules for other countries. I would imagine them to be similar. So many UK based supporting artist agencies will take children as young as 16 as an adult, as long as they finish their GCSEs. So 16 plus, some 18 plus, and as I said, some specialise in supporting artist work for children. Obviously, as always, do your due diligence, check these out. I don't have any specific that I can recommend, and I'd love to hear if you find some success stories for yourself or your child. Right, back to the episode. So, is supporting artist work good for young performers? This is what I've got from some research. It can be, but parents need to go in with open eyes. For some young performers, supporting artist work is a brilliant way to see how a set works, building confidence and understanding filming. For others, it might be too much waiting, too long a day, or not enough actual performing to feel satisfying. That doesn't mean they're not talented. It just means they may prefer classes, theatre, short films, self-tapes, or acting roles where they have more creative involvement. So I'd never say that every young performer should do supporting artist work, but I would say it can be a useful part of the bigger picture if expectations are clear. The key question is, are we doing this for experience and understanding, or are we doing it because we think it guarantees something? Because I think those are two very different things. This is a question I hear a lot. Does it lead to acting roles? Sometimes people hope that if they do enough supporting artist work, they'll be discovered on set and suddenly offered a speaking role. And that isn't impossible, because those things do happen, but it's not really a sensible plan. Most acting roles are cast separately through casting directors, agents, the self-tapes, the auditions and submissions, etc. Supporting artist work is usually booked through a different process. So if your goal is acting, you still need your training. You still need to work on the craft. You still need good self-tape skills. You still need material, experience, and eventually the right casting routes or representation. Supporting artist work can still sit alongside that, in my opinion, but it shouldn't replace it. So what parents should watch out for if they are taking the reins with this? I'd say be sensible with this. Check that the agents are legitimate. There are still rogue agencies, both agents and supporting artist agencies. So check that out at length. Understand the payment terms. With my agency, I think it's £60 for the year, and they only take that when you get your first job through them. So it doesn't cost me anything to set up and be part of the agency. But check those payment terms because they're all going to be different. Read the requirements carefully, know what you're agreeing to, and be aware that filming can involve long days and last-minute changes. I would say for children it's difficult. This is why I haven't looked into signing mine up for a supporting artist agency, because I don't want them at the drop of the hat skipping school, etc. Although again, with licensing, I would imagine they have to be more organised with the children. But yeah, I want to get their acting experience, and we're managing to do that. And as I said, they're on as an extension of me, and we could do stuff together through an agency that I trust, but as of yet are not on a supporting artist book themselves. Yeah, so make sure for these children that the safeguarding and the licenses are there and properly handled. Never let the excitement of a big production name, although usually you're given a code name, to be honest, a screen credit or a famous actor, don't let that cloud your judgment. Of course, you know this as a parent, your child's well-being means far more than any acting job or supporting artist job. If a call-out feels chaotic, unclear, inappropriate or wrong for you or your child, then you're allowed to say no. And that's not being difficult. Like I said no about my hair. It's just being honest. It's being responsible. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And that is totally okay. So my final thoughts then. Should actors join supporting artist agencies? My honest answer is yes. They can be helpful. But you do need to know what they are for. And again, like I said, I'm aiming this series more at your sort of 18 plus young actors. And for you, I would say go for it, especially if you do have your own means of travel. I think this is a really exciting string to your bow as you start out. But of course, if you're off to drama school, you can't be doing this because the two can't happen at the same time. But perhaps on a gap year, being a supporting artist could work really, really well. If you're not off travelling, of course. So yes, it can help you understand professional sets. It can build confidence. You can learn the etiquette. You can see the reality of screen work from the inside. And I think this can be incredibly valuable, especially early on. But as I said in the episode, it's not a replacement for acting training, far from it. It's not a guaranteed route to an agent. It's not usually the same as being cast in an acting role. And if you already have an acting agent, do check with them first. I would never want this episode to rock your relationship with your agent. I always advocate for being honest and transparent and having discussions. Go in with respect, with professionalism, and with realistic expectations. Treat this as an experience, not a golden ticket. And if you do that, I think there's a lot to learn. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Drama Coach podcast. I hope it's helped demystify supporting artist agencies and given you a clearer idea of whether they might be right for you or your young performer that you're supporting. Take your time, do your research, keep expectations realistic, and remember that every experience should support the performer's confidence, well-being, and understanding of the craft and the industry. You can follow the podcast, share this episode with someone who might find it useful, and follow me at The Drama Coach for more acting tips, audition advice, and honest conversations about the industry. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.